What is up, everyone? Mark here, and welcome to episode 6 of the Prepared Pantry. Today, we're going to show you one of my all-time favorites, and that is mac and cheese. It's just 4 simple ingredients in the basic mac and cheese recipe. One pot stovetop mac you can throw together super easy. We're going to make it a little bit extra today in that we're going to do mac and cheese with ham and peas. I do like adding a little bit of protein, a little bit of additional texture. I love the peas in there as well. A little bit of vegetable, sort of vegetable. I know they're kind of a starch as well, but it just adds a little something, adds a little pop of color. So before we get started with the recipe, I want to thank you all again for continuing to support the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Just click the red button down below and make sure you hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I have a new video out. You can also find me at MarkBurm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All right, let's get started. All right, simple ingredients here, right? So we have 8 ounces of dry pasta. We have a cup and a half of water, 1 cup of milk. We have 4 ounces of American cheese. I'm using Velveeta. It does have to be a processed cheese. That's key in this. We've got a half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a pinch of cayenne pepper. We've got half to about 3/4 of a cup of diced ham, half to 3/4 of a cup of frozen peas. We have 4 ounces of extra sharp cheddar cheese. And for the crumb topping, we have 1/3 of a cup of panko breadcrumbs, a tablespoon of olive oil, and 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese. And we do not want to use the green canned stuff for this. You want to use real Parmesan or something closer to it. For the 2 cheeses, ideally you want to grind these yourself or grate these yourself from the block. You don't want to use pre-grated cheese because they come the same as the green can Parmesan stuff with stuff coated on them to prevent them from caking, which kind of leads to grainy cheese sauce, not tasty. So I know that's easier to come by with things like cheddar cheese. You can get blocks of that easily enough. But with processed American cheese, sometimes that's harder. So, you know, this is a block of Velveeta. Like I said, but you can use sliced, pre-sliced cheeses, Kraft singles if you need to. I would prefer that over a pre-shredded cheese in this case. But just keep in mind that those do sometimes have additional stuff in them to hold them together. Sometimes it makes for a gluier, kind of glumpier sauce. So wherever possible, I do like to grate these down myself. So that's actually the first thing we're going to do is grate our cheese. And I just usually like to break this up into smaller pieces to make the process a little bit easier. And this, truth be told, isn't super important. You know, if there's some chunks in here, that's okay. We're really only grating this so that it'll melt a little bit more easily. And processed cheese is soft enough that you might have a hard time getting it to go cleanly through the grater anyway, especially on a hot day like this. And we do the same thing with our cheddar cheese. And the cheddar is a little firmer, so this should go through the grater a little bit more easily. I actually like to grate the American cheese first so that then the harder cheese can kind of scrape any of the squishier cheese that went through first. Okay, now we have reasons for using the cheeses that we're using here. The cheddar, the extra sharp cheddar that we're using is more for the deeper flavor that we'll get with a heartier, harder cheese. The American cheese, or Velveeta in this case, the processed cheese is because it contains emulsifying salts. And those emulsifying salts are enough to help with the rest of the cheddar as well, to make a nice smooth cheese sauce that doesn't get oily and clumpy and separated, which can happen when you use entirely cheddar or something like that. It doesn't have as much flavor on its own. You know, American cheese, processed cheese is a little bit weak, so that's why we use the stronger cheese in combination with it. All right, so we are going to add our water. And milk to our saucepan. And get that to a boil. And once this reaches a boil, we're going to add our dry pasta. And this recipe is actually designed around elbow macaroni. You can use elbow macaroni, but we're actually going to use one of my favorite pasta shapes here today, and that is radiatori. It is not necessarily ready available in lots of places, but so named because it supposedly resembles little radiators. I love it. It's got lots of surface area to hold a lot of sauce, and I just don't get to use it enough. Now, I'll put a link down in the description for anyone who might be interested in picking some up if you can't find it near you. But again, regular elbow macaroni will work just fine here. Okay, now as this reaches a boil, we're going to go ahead and turn it down and add our pasta. And now this is just going to kind of simmer along at a lower heat for about 6 to 8 minutes. We want it to be a little bit past al dente, and then we'll be ready to move on to our next step. You do want to keep your pasta moving occasionally as it continues to cook, just so that things don't start to stick to the bottom. Now, as this continues to cook down, you'll see the pasta getting more tender. There'll be less and less liquid. There'll probably still be a little bit of liquid left over in the pan when this is done, and that'll help contribute to the start of the sauce. And especially as the liquid gets less and less, you want to make sure you keep it stirring pretty constantly. I think we're almost where we want to be here. So we're going to kill the heat. And we're going to add the American cheese, our pinch of cayenne, and our Dijon mustard. We're going to mix this until the American cheese is fully melted and incorporated. Okay, now we're going to add our peas and our ham. We're just going to mix that through. The peas I actually had out ahead of time, so they were kind of coming up to room temperature as it is. Obviously, the colder the peas and ham are when you throw them in, the more that's going to kind of chill things down a little bit. You may need to put the heat back on a little bit. And once you've got your peas and ham mixed in there, which is, of course, optional, we're going to add our cheddar cheese. And here's where the real flavor comes in. We're going to try to get this mostly incorporated, but we're not going to worry about it being super melty just yet. As long as it's all combined, we're going to give this a final stir once we're done with our breadcrumbs, and it will look perfect. You can kind of see maybe why I like this radiatori shape so much. It really holds on to this cheese sauce. Okay, the cheese is mostly dispersed in here. We're going to set this aside and just take a few minutes to work on our breadcrumbs. Okay, we're going to get our frying pan going over medium heat. Panko goes in. Oil goes in. And we just want to get this to toast until it starts to brown, just for a couple of minutes. Now I know this technically isn't a one-pan recipe or a one-pot recipe if we also use a frying pan to toast up some breadcrumbs, but I think you'll agree if you make this, the breadcrumbs are totally worth it. This is a delicious recipe that any Blue Box fan of mac and cheese, kids, grandkids, and adults alike, will find irresistible. Turn down the heat here. I think we're getting to about where I want to be. Got some nice golden brown crumbs. Kill the heat. Off the heat, I'm going to mix in the Parmesan. And we will transfer our crumbs into a bowl. And let's get ready to give this stuff a taste. All right, let's give this a final stir. Listen to that. This is how mac and cheese should look and sound. All right, so I'm gonna get some of this in a bowl. Top it with a little bit of our toasted Parmesan breadcrumb. Now, of course, there's nothing to stop you from putting this in a casserole dish and making it as a casserole too, but this just makes it a little bit easier. So save a step. Why dirty a casserole for nothing? An amazingly deep cheese flavor. The extra sharp cheddar comes through, but really creamy because of that Velveeta. The cheesiness goes great with the ham. The peas have a little fresh pop. A little something green tasting in there. And this Parmesan crumb topping though. Let me try a little bit of pepper. It doesn't really need much salt. Enough of the ingredients that went into this are kind of salty to begin with. Yeah, a little extra pepper is nice. And that radiatori pasta shape holding on to all that sauce. Well, I can stay here and eat mac and cheese in front of you guys all night, but I'm really just keeping you guys from going out and making some of this for yourself. I hope you give this recipe a try. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. Again, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Red button down below. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you get a notification every time we have a new video. And we'll see you in the next one.